After years in a high-pressure environment of the emergency department, she decided to pivot, turning her focus to helping high-achieving professionals reclaim their time, design lives of purpose, and create lasting wealth through passive real estate. She also a creator of My Expansive Life, a movement helping people break free from limiting beliefs and embrace abundance, growth, and limitless possibilities.
And then when I started to figure out what that path looked like, I wanted to do it for others, people who were in the same path as I was, people in the same mindset, people who look like me, thinking about how we can generate wealth outside of our, outside of what we do, what we're called to do, what we love. And that's how Phoenix Capital was born.
Welcome back to the Opportunity Room, the show where we sit down with true leaders, change makers, people who are turning ambition into actions. Today's guest is a woman whose story bridges two worlds, one of life-saving medicine and another one of wealth-building entrepreneurship. Dr. Nkem is a mama, is an ER physician, multifamily real estate investor, and a founder of Phoenix Capital Investment. After years in a high-pressure environment of the emergency department, she decided to pivot, turning her focus to helping high-achieving professionals reclaim their time, design lives of purpose, and create lasting wealth through passive real estate. She also a creator of My Expansive Life, a movement helping people break free from limiting beliefs and embrace abundance, growth, and limitless possibilities. Dr. Nkem's journey is a masterclass of reinvention, and today we'll unpack how she's done it, what she's learned along the way, and how you too can create your version of an expansive life. Welcome to the Opportunity Room, Dr. Nkem.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you again for the opportunity.
So we are more than actually privileged to have you here. So you took off your time just to allow us to interview you for a couple of minutes here, or maybe an hour. So to start off, how would you describe who you are in your own words?
Simple. As he said, my name is, Amadou said, my name is Nkem Ezamama. I'm an ER physician. So that means I work in the emergency room, and I'm privileged to be able to serve my patients in that capacity. And a few years ago, I pivoted because I wanted to start thinking about our lives as full, which is where my expansive life came into it. But that's also where Phoenix Capital blossomed from. It was this notion of wanting to build wealth outside of my 9 to 5, and to thinking about what that creation could look like. And then when I started to figure out what that path looked like, I wanted to do it for others, people who were in the same path as I was, people in the same mindset, people who look like me, thinking about how we can generate wealth outside of our, outside of what we do, what we're called to do, what we love. And that's how Phoenix Capital was born. And that has been my heart, really, to think about wealth building and wealth creation on a large scheme, and knowing that we can do what we love, but we have to be thinking about diversification, about real estate, about wealth building, and what that looks like. And then to bring all of that together is a creation of My Expansive Life, because I think that some of us are called to live bigger lives, and to know that there are other people in the space, other people who are living, who have that same vision, that same dream, that same goal of doing more than just working, doing more than just going to work Monday to Friday, and then the weekends, kind of flying by the weekends and doing it all
Right.
over, but knowing that maybe there's more to your life, more purpose, more action, more goals, and figuring out what that looks like.
That's beautifully framed. That's what I call a life of purpose, and we'll unpack more as we talk in this conversation. So let's talk about your journey into medicine, right? So what inspired you? Let's just start from the beginning. What inspired you to pursue medicine in the first place?
The idea that, or the notion that I could make a difference in people's lives, first in medicine and then outside of medicine, is what drew me to medicine. And I don't take it for granted. I live a beautiful life where I get
Right.
to actually take care of patients and understand what it means to meet them at their weakest point, at their most vulnerable point, which is life and death sometimes, and to be able to make a difference. I think it's such a beautiful thing, and only a certain number of us have that ability and that capability. And so I'm grateful to be one of them. It started with just I love medicine, and I'm one of those people who can see blood and guts, and that excites me. But I think about a day in the emergency room, and it could be a day where I deliver a baby, and the next second I'm hugging an old woman, and the next second, I'm high fiving a 5-year-old, and then at the same time, right, I'm taking care of a sick person who's dying in front of me, and it could also be a day where someone does die, and so like
Right.
to be able to experience all those facets of life through disease process and illness, I think it's really remarkable, and I'm so grateful that I get to be a part of that.
Yeah, thank you for what you do. We truly need more people like you. So becoming an ER doctor is definitely not a small feat. So can you walk us through what it really takes from just medicine school to residencies? So our audience can really understand the level of commitment and sacrifice involved.
Okay, so I did microbiology as an undergrad, and that took me 4 years. And after that, then while you're doing that, you're studying for the MCAT. You take the MCAT, and hopefully you get in, right? You apply to medical school. You apply to a lot of schools because you don't, you kind of cast a wide net, and so you get into medical school. Medical school is another 4 years, and probably I think I'm not. I think I can't I can't figure out which one's harder. Medical school is harder from a like taxing knowledge standpoint, and residency is more taxing from a mental, physical, emotional standpoint. So, but 4 years of medical school. And then after that, at the last year of medical school, your third and fourth year, you're trying to figure out what you want to do. Do you want to do emergency medicine? Do you want to do cardiology? Do you want to do surgery? Do you want to do OBGYN? You're testing. Every 6 weeks, you get to do a different specialty to figure out what you want. And then your fourth year, you apply and you go into this thing called a match, right? So you you rank a list of programs that you want to go, and that program ranks a list of people that they want to come to their program, and
Right.
this algorithm of sorts matches you, and so you get matched. Hopefully you get your first choice, and I did. And so I did emergency medicine, and I trained for another 3 years. So that was 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, and 3 years of residency. And after residency, so as a resident, you're still a physician, right? When you get your
Okay.
MD degree or your DO, you become a physician. And then those 3 years are probably the hardest 3 years of your life because they're long hours. It's where everything that you've learned, you get put into practice, but you're training, you're learning. This is the first time like you're building your skills, right? To become, because one day you will be in charge, and one day you'll be the leader of wherever, whatever your specialty is. And so
Right.
you are acquiring all the hands-on knowledge that you can in order for you to be the best doctor. And then after you're done with that, you are a full-fledged physician, but now after that you take your board certification, and then after that you are now a full-fledged board certified physician. And for me, it was emergency medicine. So that's what that whole process looks like, and that's a span of 11 years.
That's what I call a commitment. It got to be a true calling or true passion in order to have that commitment. That's a lot. But yeah, we congratulations on that,
Thank you.
on taking that path and serving people the way you do. Um, Now, let me kind of, now that you work in the ER, I know ER is just it's a crazy world, right? So can you share a moment in ER in your career that's still uh, that's something that shaped your life till today?
um I take for granted sometimes that a lot of us have family. And I remember one day in the ER, I took care of an old lady who came in cardiac arrest, and that pretty much meant that her heart stopped, and so her heart wasn't beating, and she was practically dead. So she was brought to the ER. I can't remember where she came from, nursing home, or I'm not sure, but we did all that we could, and we couldn't get her back. She was older. but we still did everything that we could and we couldn't get her back. And I remember there were two instances that shaped my life, but that was, and both of them were deaths of family members. But this one, I went out to talk to her only living relative, but I didn't know that, and so I sat down next to this young woman and I told her everything, and I told her we did everything. And she looked at me and said, in words similar to this, what am I going to do right now? This was my only living relative. And all she asked me was, can you please give me a hug? And in that moment, right, there are times where, I've been fortunate to birth babies and to bring someone into this life, and that's really exciting. And that's very exciting for our nurses, for me, for the family, for the new parents. But that day I sat next to this young woman, and I realized that her life would be completely different now. And so to be part of that, right, and I hugged her, and I don't even know what I said or what words I was able to say, but in that instance, it just it humanized what we do, because medicine, especially in the ER, is hard because we see life and death every
Right.
single day. And so sometimes we become callous to this, but sometimes you forget that this is somebody's family member and this is someone's loved ones, right?
Right.
Because it almost feels like sometimes a coping mechanism. But I remember that day and I sat with her, and I think I can't remember, tears streamed down my eyes, but we just sat there and she's like, okay, I'm going to figure out what life is. I don't even know where papers, or I don't know where anything, all the things that you think about, but you never
Right.
think that that will happen.
Right.
And that day, it kind of just, it brought it back to, it made me realize the fragility of life. It made me
Right.
realize the beauty of life. It made me realize that, like as humans, right? It's okay to grieve. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to be happy. And so being, I think I'm fortunate to be in the ER because every day I'm reminded, how beautiful life is. I'm reminded how short life is. I'm
Right.
reminded, so, and it's not always beautiful, right? Sometimes the patients are hard, but I'm grateful every day. I tell my friends, I tell my family, I tell, that my loved ones, just how grateful I am to have been able to walk this path and to, be able to make a difference in the hospital.
Yeah, it's man, I don't think I will be able to do ER, and I don't think I will be able to do medicine. Again, listening to you, it tells me that you can't take life for granted. It's a gift to be alive. So thank you again for all you do. So now let me switch over a little bit. You're working in a high stake environment. That can take emotional and mental toll on you. Just by you telling me your story, I'm starting to feel some type of way about it. So just imagine if I was wearing your hat. So how did you handle that stress, and what kept you grounded throughout those intense moments?
People,
Okay.
people, people. You can't go through life alone. You cannot. Um, the beauty of this life is through relationships and
Right.
family and friends and community. And I think that especially when you are in a high stakes environment all the time, right? You build bonds that may be our lifetime. So I think for me, the biggest thing is knowing that I have my people, I have my person, I have friends, I have family, I
Right.
have loved ones. I think that's the most important thing, so that when the storms are, when the storms are there, because they will come, to know that you have people by your side.
Right. Yeah. Good. Good. Now let's pivot a little bit into a different area of your life. Obviously you have a stable and respected career as an ER physician. But what was the turning point that made you consider just venturing out into helping people and just real estate and just building a legacy that way?
I as much as I love the ER and I love medicine, at some point, a lot of medicine was changing, at least in front of me. I started noticing that it was more about the business of medicine and less about people and patients. And so the thing that brought me a lot of joy suddenly started to change. I also started to notice that, like there was no job security. So, as much as I was making a difference, right, my job could be taken away from me any second.
Right.
And so I started thinking about what life outside of this. I started thinking about like, how can I protect myself? How can I build something that is not 100% reliant on me as a physician?
So are you telling me that there is I thought there was a shortage of doctors in all areas, but now you're telling.
So it just depends, right? Like it
Okay.
depends on, yes, there's shortage of physicians, but maybe more in rural areas that really can't get people because nobody wants to live there, right? And
Okay.
in certain specialties also there's a scarcity.
Okay.
But then there's others that are, that are fully, kind of they have enough people, right? They have
Okay.
they're well I don't want to use stocks, but like we have enough, right? There are enough physicians to cover the area, especially in big cities
Okay.
where people want to live. There's no shortage of physicians.
But the ratio might not be very good, because if I want to see a doctor now, my appointment is like a month or 2 months away
It depends
from
on the
today's date.
specialty. It depends on the specialty, depends on
Okay.
what you do. Of course, in the emergency room, you have access to care all the time.
Okay.
But when you think about kind of like, it depends on the specialty, depends on where you are.
Okay.
Again, it depends on, the number, the availability of physicians in that area, in your city, in your county, all of those things in your state.
Okay. All right. Now let's talk about real estate a little bit. So there are many ways to make money: passive income. You could be investing in bitcoins, could be investing
That's
in
true.
other areas, right? So why did you choose real estate specifically?
So after doing research, and anyone who's listening to this, you don't only have to do real estate, right? I do think
Right.
you need to be diversified. And so I think you need to you need to think about multiple assets, and even inside of real estate, right? Also diversify within that. But for me, right, I realized that a place to live, right, is a basic human need. So housing really truly is a basic human need.
Right.
And so everybody needs a place to live. So when I started thinking about, kind of where I wanted to go, where I wanted to think about diversification. If you look at, you've heard there's this quote that says 90% of millionaires make their money through real estate, and it's attributed to Andrew Carnegie. But it's true, right? A lot of truly wealth is rooted in real estate. It's
That's
rooted
true.
in land. And so as I thought about diversifying, right, I am diversified. I'm in stocks. I max out my 401k at work. I've dabbled in oil and gas. There's a lot of things that I've done, right? And
Okay.
so when I started thinking about kind of what next, I thought about real estate, and I said, I want to take a chance.
Okay. Interesting. So real estate is still pretty broad, right? You could be, there is multifamily home, there is
Yes,
just
yes.
single family home. There's just, what area of real estate would you advise someone like me, making decent amount of money, don't know what to do with that saving? What would you advise me? In what
So it
area?
depends on what you want to do. It depends on your goals, right?
Okay.
I went into multifamily. I went into apartment complexes. One, because initially, I wanted it to be passive. I didn't want to manage toilets and tenants, and I just wanted my money to work for me. That was my initial my goal. And so that's what I did. And then when I got into it and I kind of grew, and I realized that there's more in the space and more of me is needed to help others do the same thing, that's
Okay.
when I decided to go passive. I decided to go active. And more active is where Phoenix Capital was born, right? And my heart and my goal was to help professionals, busy professionals, healthcare professionals, even bring this access to them, right? We have the resources, but is there access? And so my heart and my goal was, how can I now bring access to this groups or these groups of people that didn't have that? That was my thought process behind it. And that's why I picked initially, that's why I picked multifamily. If you are, if you're thinking you want to do this by yourself, you want to start small, you want to maybe buy one single family and build from there, right? That's an option, but that option doesn't fit everyone. If I think about like a busy healthcare professional, busy physician like me, they are not, they love what they do, but they want their money to work for them, right? So when
Right.
they're in the hospital, while they're in the operating room, they want the money to be working while they're sleeping, while they're traveling. They want passive income. And so, thinking about coming together and buying, pulling resources and funds together and then going to buy,
Okay.
that fits the model of what they want to do. So you have to figure out what exactly you want, what your goals are, and how
Okay.
this aligns with you. I think that's how you make the right decision.
Okay. So now, so Phoenix Capital is just 100% real estate investment. Is that what
Yes,
it is?
yes, it is.
Okay. All right. So, uh, is there what is more profitable to you? I mean, I don't know how long you've been doing Phoenix Capital. How long you been doing it?
We are going on 3.5 years.
3.5 years. Okay. So there's also a possibility to invest on real estate through stocks, right?
Yes, yes.
Which one? I mean, I don't know if you venture out on that space or not. Have you kind of checked to see which one is more profitable and more prone to risk between?
So good question. And that's again kind of when you figure out like how this aligns with what you want your goals. So I think what
Mhm.
you're talking about is a real estate investment trust. And so the
Right.
difference between that and what we do is that is public and we are private. So when
Okay.
you think about kind of how you want to go and just depending on, the risk and benefits to going to REIT versus like a private syndication,
Right.
that's the difference. So as you think about, how you want to scale, and it's all about returns. So at the end of the day, you have to compare the returns. Now, the difference between them is because the REIT is on the public market, right?
Okay.
It is liquid. As opposed to syndications are illiquid. So when you think about investing with us, for instance, right, you are committing to 5 years. And
Okay.
that's the one thing that is kind of, that's a big difference. And then another big difference is kind of what the returns look like, right? Some of the returns are a little bit juicier on our side because we are going straight, like we are buying from the sellers, as opposed to you are investing through a REIT.
So, are you right now focused in one specific state, or you just go wherever the opportunity actually present itself?
We are in the Southeast, so anywhere, Georgia, Carolinas, Tennessee, those are the big markets that we're in right now. And that's kind of where we want to focus. So not specifically one state, but a region.
Why is that?
Good question. For us, right, market analysis is important. So we're
Okay.
looking at where rent is growing. We're looking at where jobs are growing, because if if companies are moving jobs, that means people are moving there. And again, housing is a basic human need and people need a place to stay. So thinking about that, right? And then looking at also where the migration patterns, right? People are leaving the West, they're leaving the North, and they're moving down South. So
Okay.
all of those are kind of how we think about market analysis in where we want to buy in the states that we're looking at.
Now, okay, walk me through the process so I can get a better grip of how it works, right? So if I come in and I'm interested in multifamily home and I say I want to invest I want to work with you in just developing a portfolio. How does it work? What are the different steps that takes place?
Great question. So the first thing that we do is have a conversation, you and I understand what your goals are. I
Okay.
understand kind of where you are and where you're heading. What
Right.
does financial freedom mean to you? What does that look like? What does family mean? How does that play into the big picture? And I'll say this, right? So this specific type of investment opportunity is limited to a certain income bracket. So in order for you to invest with me in some of our deals, not all, but most of them, right, you have to make $200,000 in income, and you have to have made that the prior 2 years. You have to
Okay.
show proof of that. And then you have to show the possibility that you're going to make it in the next year. So it's either $200,000 single or $300,000 with your spouse together, or you have to own $1 million in net worth. And that net worth, and that $1 million excludes your primary residence. So think maybe your additional homes, think your 401k, think retirement, think stocks, all of that are building your net worth. And so all of that have to add up to 1 million. And if you qualify, then you have these opportunities available for you. And so that looks like as soon as we have talked about that, in addition to talking about your goals and how this aligns with you, right, then we start the process. So that looks like, if we have a deal available, I will tell you about that deal. And if we don't have a deal available, then you will come into our community and you'll just learn. You'll understand what investing is. You'll learn about taxes. We'll just kind of continue to educate you, because the most important thing, I think, is an empowered and an educated investor. So then if a deal is available, then I'll be able to present that to you. And if it works out for you, then the next decision is yes or no. And if you want to invest with us, it's very simple. Like, we have a secure portal. It has all your information. It'll have all the loan documents. It'll have the operating agreement, the subscription documents. You'll be able to see all of that, and you have access to all of that. And then on a monthly basis, we have monthly updates on how the property is doing, how we're managing it. And then on a quarterly basis, we have a call to discuss our plans, our goals. If you have any questions about the financials, how we're managing it, any renovations that we want to do, you get all of that. And then we'll hold it. And as we continue to update and renovate, we'll let you know until it's time to sell. When it's time to sell, we'll let you know. We'll kind of tell you what your returns are, what the plan is in terms of selling, how much you're making. And then also with the big beautiful bill, we also, these investments, these asset classes, they qualify for bonus depreciation. So first year when we buy, we have a structural engineer do a cost segregation, and then we're able to depreciate the property, and then you benefit from that, because the following year we'll give you a K1, which you give to your accountant, and that's like a tax document to be able to claim your depreciation.
All right. So now you said you have to make a minimum of $200,000 a year, right? Aren't you shrinking the pool of people who look like us? Because if you look at data, right, people who look like us don't make that kind of money. So
good. Okay. So I'll tell you this, right? That's not a rule that I created. That's not a rule that Phoenix created. It really truly is, an SEC requirement for syndications, for deals like this. Now, there is another class of deals that we can participate in, right? And that is something called a 506B. Those are 506B deals. And after we have some sort of relationship, like a prior, you and I have talked about real estate investing. When I do deals like that, right, I'll bring it to you, right, and I'll say, hey, I have this deal. If you're interested, right, we are looking to acquire it, but there's a limit to how many people can come into those deals. And really, you have to think of yourself as a savvy investor. That means that, again, we have to have had a prior relationship. You understand the risk and the benefits of doing this. And then we craft that type of document, that type of agreement, and then I'm able to tell you about those deals. But the limitations for me when we do deals like that is that I cannot talk about those deals. I can only talk about it to people who I have relationships with. So we cannot advertise it. We can't talk about it on social media. Nothing. So the thing is, like, it limits the number of people that we can bring into the deal, but it also limits the size that we can do. So that's what we think about. So there is an opportunity to invest. But I also think that, in this type of investment opportunity, you are taking a risk. And so you have to be educated. You really have to understand the risk and benefits, and you have to make enough money to be able to invest, because the minimum investment is $50,000. So it is a lot of money. And so I don't want you to give me your life savings, like the only money that you have, like your emergency fund. I don't want you to use that to invest. You really should have disposable income. You should have additional income that you want to use to invest. And that's the opportunity that gets created. So I understand the reason why we limit the time, a salary amount, right? The income amount. I understand that, because you should make a certain amount in order for you to have extra to be able to invest in opportunities like this. If you make 75,000, right?
Right.
This is not the right opportunity for you, at least to start off with, right? Because by the time you take away your living expenses, life, feeding, all these other things, rent, right, or mortgage, there's not a ton left. And so that money needs to be put in, you need to have security, you need to have your emergency fund, those things need to be in place.
Right.
And so if in a few years, right, whatever that looks like, you and I have talked, we've understood your plans, you still want to invest, when I have those type of specific deals, then maybe we can have a conversation.
Now, let me challenge you a little bit, right? Don't you think you guys need to revisit the business model? Because I'm just gonna, for instance, use that book, right? The Millionaire Next Door, right?
Okay.
What the Millionaire Next Door talks about, that most of those people that they actually share their stories and become millionaires, they're actually making less than $150,000 a year. They ended up being millionaires somewhere down on the line. So you have those people that actually have more than a disposable income, right? That's ready to be invested, and you actually losing opportunity on not tapping into those people. So
Okay, so I beg to differ, right? Those
okay.
millionaires next door are millionaires, and they can invest in real estate, right? That's number one. But number two, right? They built to get there. So they didn't start, investing day one. Maybe they did $50 in stocks, or they did a little bit here and a little bit there, and they were still doing things, right? But maybe this opportunity was just not available to them at time zero, or when they started working, right? But when they became millionaires, like, those are investors, right? Those are the people that are investing in these deals. But I think the best thing that you can do when you don't have the resources right now is to get educated, is to read, right? And behind me, I don't even know where I'll pull it from, but the Millionaire Next Door is behind me. So it's a book that I've read, right?
Okay.
And I can find it and give it to and show it. But I'm saying that to say that maybe this is not the right time, right? Maybe this is the time that you build and you learn, and you save up, so that when you make the money, right, when you have the resources, you can. And like I said, there will be opportunities, specific deals, probably smaller deals, that we will have the opportunity to bring in investors who don't make that amount, right? But like I said, we have had a prior relationship. We've had communication. We've talked about it, so that when that opportunity arises, right, I can pick up the phone and call you and say, hey, Amadou, that, remember we talked about this. We have a deal. I'm bringing in 35. There are only 35 of you who can come in on this deal. And you're going to, I want to extend the opportunity to you. That's what that conversation looks like. So I don't necessarily think that I'm limiting it. One, I didn't make the rules, right? But two, totally I understand why the rules are there, right? I will tell you, some of my investors who, maybe to some degree, when we had those 506B deals, right? Some of my investors those are the people who every month, right, I get a phone call from them, or I get a call, or hey, what's going on? How's this deal going? But when you truly have disposable income, right, you understand risk. You understand that you're like, okay, I'm putting this money away. Like, this is the expectation. It's going to make me this in this amount of time, right? I'm leaving that. I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to work hard at work. Or I'm going to build from somewhere else. So that's kind of the mindset. It is also a mindset thing. And I think that that's also something to just be thinking about. So I don't think it's limiting. And I don't think that it's for everyone today, right? I think you can build to get there. And then for those who are, who happen to be in the income bracket and they want to invest, I think it's a wonderful opportunity.
All right, nice. So I probably should have asked you that. Where did Phoenix Capital come from? Where that name come from?
It is it's Eastern European, and it just means rising from the ashes.
Okay.
And second chance, second opportunity, and this is another way to grow.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Hey, are there some of the deals? I know you talked about earlier that some of the deals you cannot really talk about it. Is it possible to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I could talk about every deal now because
Right.
they're all deals that are available to accredited investors, right?
Right.
So those are those investors that make the amount I told you or have the net worth. So that's the thing I can talk about it. If we had a deal that I couldn't talk about, for those 35 people who are non-accredited, right, then
Right.
I wouldn't be able to have this conversation. But because all our deals right now, the deals we have available are for accredited investors, we could talk about it. And so
Okay.
the deals, most of our deals are in Atlanta or the Atlanta MSA. So that's thinking a little outside of it, right?
Okay.
And so it's we have a deal right now that's 125 units, and
Okay.
it's a 2022 build. It's new,
Very new. Yep.
and so that is available to investors, and the return for that looks like about 16%, and that's average. So
Okay.
on a like just easy math, if you invested 100,000 at the end of the hold, because I told you it was around 5 years,
Right.
you would make about an additional 80,000, but you would also get return of your initial capital.
Okay. So now, what happened after the 5 years? How do you take all your money out, or you just re-inject it? How does it work after the 5 years?
Good
Do you
question. So
renegotiate the
we have
whole thing?
options.
Okay.
You have options. We can sell when we decide. So if we're selling, right, we'll
Okay.
sell, and then you have the option to take the money, or if we have another deal that's available, right, you
Okay.
can take that money and reinvest it into another deal. And the beauty of that is that you don't have to pay capital gains. So that's a way, like to kind of prevent you from paying taxes right now. You can
Right.
invest it in another property, or you could take the money and go. Now, if we
Okay.
decide at 5 years that we don't want to sell, we can refinance. And then
Okay.
when we refinance, we can give you back some of your equity and keep you in the deal for another maybe year or two. That's what that looks like.
Okay. Does the deal include any type of exit strategy at all, or there is no such thing as exit strategy
For you or for like the whole deal?
for the whole
So
investor
yes,
pool?
so the exit strategy is sell at year 5 or refinance.
Oh, that's the okay.
Hmm.
That's the one.
Yeah.
All right. So for now, Phoenix Capital is only on real estate, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now let's talk about a little bit about Expensive Life. So what inspired to create that Expensive Life, and tell us about a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So it's very new, and honestly came from a deep kind of pain point of mine.
Okay.
As I became an entrepreneur, I was looking for people like me who
Okay.
had the same mindset and who
Right.
wanted to grow, right? Who wanted more than just their 9 to 5 and their job. And so what did that look like? That is where it came from. So it really truly is a lifestyle platform, a community where we come together and just like inspire each other, where we keep each other accountable, where we grow together. We talk about business, we talk about life, we talk about travel, we talk about mindset, all the
Okay.
things of like, how do we want to have truly an expansive life, a bigger life than just go to work, come back, go to work, come back, fly through the weekend, do it all over again. The year goes by, the year goes by. Like, if you are called to live a bigger life, if you're called to really inspire and to touch lives and to make a difference, then why don't we find ourselves and figure out how we can empower each other, encourage each other to grow, and figure out what that life looks like, or like to even give you the opportunity to be able to create it.
All right. Beautiful. So how long has that community been created?
It is 6 months old.
6 months old. So do you have any success stories so far on that during
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Great question. Yes. So we have one of our like kind of young investors who was thinking about investing and kind of came in and just thought about like, I want to create something, right? I want a life outside of my 9 to 5. And so it was really a series of like coming into the community, having conversations, growing, giving resources on like how to start a business, how to grow, attending webinars together, and then going out and doing it and seeing results. So that's what that looks like.
All right. So when you say a young investor, is it young in relation to age or young in the investment game altogether?
Good question. Young, like early 30s. So not super
Okay.
young, but just
Okay.
like young in thinking about life outside of like 9 to 5.
Okay. 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 All right.
Yeah.
So, um, what role has mindset play in your success? Like,
Everything.
yeah.
Everything. You have to go from thinking that the world is small to anything, I can reach anything, I can do anything. The entire
Right.
world is at my fingertips. And I think that when you understand that, and when you understand that, fear doesn't play a role in growth. When you think about the fact that the more you grow and the more you develop yourself, the more you learn, it changes the way you approach relationships, the way you approach life. I think that it has played a huge role. And for me, the biggest mindset shift was saying that even though I was called to medicine, right?
Right.
Medicine is not my entire life, right? I can
Right.
be a doctor, and I can be an entrepreneur, and I can be a wife, and I can be a mom, and I can
Right.
change the world, and I can do all these things. Right? I could be a coach, I could be a speaker, I could stand on stage and share my story and say, if this
Right.
resonates with you, come join me, let's do it together. So that was a mindset shift for me, where in order for me to become that person, I had to let go of some of the limiting beliefs that were holding me down, and
Right.
saying that, yes, I can touch the sky and touch the world, and I can also help others do the same.
Now, through that journey, let me ask you a question, right? What was one belief that you had early in your career that you had to completely unlearn in order to get to where you're at right now?
That I wasn't good at, that I had to, the idea that I could fail, the idea that I wasn't good at managing people's money, the idea that I went to med school and I couldn't be a businesswoman, that I had to unlearn. And I'm still unlearning it today. Like, it's not one and done, right? I still have such, um, such self-doubt, right? Like, because it's just like, all I knew was medicine, right? I told you I spent
Right.
11 years, and those were
Right.
11 prime years
Right.
doing medicine. And so the idea of even thinking about anything else, right? The thoughts in my head are, who am I to think it? Who am I to try it? Who am I to do it? Right. And then coupled on top of that was like the opinion of other people who
Right.
loved you are saying, well, what are you doing? Like, you're comfortable, you're doing well, why would you even think about doing something different?
Right.
All of that, I had to
Right.
unlearn. All of that every day I had to say, you're doing the work. I had to like really work on the whole notion of imposter syndrome, because every day I told myself I was doing the work. I had results. I have investors who are making money. I have investors who are thinking this is possible, right? Like, really, I want passive income. Financial freedom can be a thing that I think about and I dream about, right? Those are all wins, and I need to hold on to even the smallest of them for that reason. And so when those voices awake, because they rise up, right? I have proof. I have proof of concept that, like, I can squash them, I can drown them, because I see every day, I see the success, I see the victory in what I'm doing, who I am, where I'm going. It's not perfect, right? But I've thrown perfection out the door. Now it's just like every day I make the decision that I'm going to do it.
Right. Just do it. Right. I like that. I'm curious to know what is your support system like, because you touching on different things with confidence. You speaking. In conferences. And, where did that come from, though?
Um, I don't know. I had amazing parents who, from a young age, they told me that I can do anything, I can be anything. And when I called crying and saying this is too hard, my mom would always say, like, those people who are crushing it, those people who are doing it, they don't have two heads. Like, God didn't create them any different. That if you wanted, she would tell me there are things that her, would never be able to do, but she's like, I know you can do it. And so they instill such strong confidence in me. And this journey it's not easy, right?
Right.
So please don't let me sell. If anybody's
No.
listening, don't let
No.
me sell that
Obviously.
this
Yep.
is easy. It
Yep.
isn't. But I also think it's very important to surround yourself with people who, their dreams don't scare you and your dreams don't scare them. And so you can have conversations with, when you tell people like, I want to be president, they're like, okay, how can we make it happen? Right?
Right.
Those are the people you want around you. And whatever it is, and I'm using that as an example, but whatever it
Right.
is, right? If you say, I want to build, I want to touch 10,000 healthcare professionals. I want them to be investing and to grow wealth. Like, that's not an unrealistic dream, right? When you
Absolutely.
surround yourself with people who are like, yes, I can do it. When you surround yourself with someone who says like, one day, Phoenix is going to be on the public market, like that. If I can think it, if I can dream it, then I can make it happen. And so
Absolutely.
you have to surround yourself with people who, again, who are on that same trajectory, or on that same mindset. And if you don't, it's not, you can only do so much by yourself, right? You can
Right.
only grow to a certain limit. But when you start thinking about linking arms and partnership and going together, you can go far.
Beautiful. Actually, I've been asking you tough questions and just picking your brain and trying to, because basically I'm asking all these questions for our audience, right? I want them, while they're watching this podcast, to actually learn through your stories, right? And make it a strategy. That's why I'm asking all these questions. But enough with the tough questions. Let me just transition to something easy, right? So outside of all of these things that you're doing, investing, building a community, just being a doctor in ER, what do you do for fun
I
outside of?
love to travel.
Yeah.
I think the idea that we get to see the world, and that the
Okay.
world is different. And I'm fortunate, right? I'm from Nigeria, so I'm fortunate to understand that, to be able to experience and understand that part of the world, but also to be able to see other parts of the world. I think it's so beautiful. And so whenever I can, I travel. I like plan life around traveling. So I would be, I think you can work, if as long as I'm not doing medicine, right? I can do Phoenix from anywhere. I could talk to investors, I could travel. And so I try to make sure I do that. And I love the outdoors. I love running. I love hiking, to be like one with nature, to be able to see the world, the green and the brown and all of that stuff. So I enjoy running, I enjoy hiking, and I love reading and journaling. And one day I'm going to write a book. I don't know when, so I'm putting it out into the world. I'm going to write a book, but in the meantime, I really like to put pen to paper and write my dreams and write my prayers and write ideas and all that stuff. So those are some of the things. They're simple, but those are the things that I like to do.
Nice, nice, nice. So I always said to people, right, I think Nigeria put Africa in the map, and I truly believe that. And I think we should have some type of use case, right, on Nigerian, just to understand where that grit come from. But that's a whole nother topic for a different day. But yeah, what is your favorite? What is one of the favorite book that you read that changed your life?
Recently,
Yeah.
I've read a lot of wonderful books, but recently, this book right here, this blue book where my hand is, called Buy Back Your Time.
Okay.
And it's by Dan Martell.
Okay.
And I really like that book. There are two books, right? I like that book by Dan
Okay.
Martell. It's right here. And then I
Okay.
also like Relentless by Tim Grover.
Okay.
And Relentless is just like getting into the minds of the basketball legends, right? The Kobe Bryant and the Michael Jordans and
Right.
the Dwayne Wades, and kind of allowing Tim to tell the story
Right.
about training and
Right.
about resilience and what it means to be relentless at that game, right? But
Right.
then that translates into life. So I
Absolutely.
really, really enjoyed reading that book. It's an easy read. Where is it? It's right there. Yep, Tim S. Grover, Relentless.
It
And
was
so
part of
that,
actually the list of books that I'm supposed to be reading, but I
oh
haven't
really?
got to. Yes.
It's so good, so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
So you should read that. And then this book, Buy Back Your Time, right there.
Right.
It is about how to use your time well.
Okay.
Like we have the same 24 hours in a day, but you
Absolutely.
understand how people you see some people who like use it so well.
Right.
And so the notion of like, what is your time worth, right?
Right.
Maybe you should have been doing a $1 skill, and maybe you should be focused on doing $1,000 skill, or
Right.
$500 skill, or ten
Right.
thousand dollars skill, wherever but
Right.
it's like figuring out what your time is worth. That's what the book is about, and I think the book is wonderful.
Yeah. Denzel Washington said, don't confuse movement with progress, right?
Oh,
So
that's
we
it.
have to make sure that the The things that we can outsource, we outsource them. The things that we need to be focusing on and just making sure we champion that we focus on making those good moves. So a morning routine in one sentence.
This.
Pray.
So this is well, yeah, that too, but this is
Oh,
like a
journaling.
journal. This is a journal. So
Okay.
and in the journal, a lot of it is prayer too. But I wake up every morning. Okay, so not every morning, right? I try to do it, but like sometimes I miss. But I start every year. I pick up a new book. Purple is my favorite color. I pick up a new book, a book I get from a conference because conferences always give books. So I pick up a book and I just write. So in it are ideas, dreams, prayers, thoughts, things I'm grateful for, who I need to forgive, things I need to let go of, thoughts or like things learned ideas, or like, okay, don't do this again. Or even sometimes conversations with myself on like, this is how you should stand up for yourself. This is how you should fight back. Like all of that stuff. I think this is, it gets me going, gets me started. It's very important. So for me, and so like most times I will be able to, if I'm sitting in my office, like doing a podcast, right, I'll be able to always touch this because I can easily grab it because it's like one of the first things that I do. So if we talk next year, you'll see a different book. It might be orange next year. It might be another book I got from a free book I got from a conference. But to me, it's important. And like this, I'm almost done with it. Like I'm like towards, you can't see, but I'm towards the end of it.
Okay.
Like all of this is like written. Yeah. So
now, what do you do once you finish with that book? You just close. You finish with the journal, you close it, and you just forget about it, or you just revisit from time to time.
Oh, good question. So I have reread this already 3 times. I've reread. So like I remember stuff like in the beginning of it. I'm like, so I wrote my journal. I'm committing to pen down thoughts, dreams, visions, and plans that God has for me and the impact I'll make on the world. And so like that was the thing I wrote in the beginning of it. And so I'll pick it back up. So every time, like if I need some inspiration or motivation, if I'm feeling like blah, because I have those days, I'll just go back to it and I'll just read it and I'll be reinvigorated, right? About why I'm on this path, about why I'm building Phoenix, about why I'm helping professionals build wealth, about why I'm thinking about my expansive life, about all the things that I want to do, right? Sometimes life bogs you down. And so to be able to pick this back up and reread it and get refreshed and figure out, it's good. So yeah.
Now, have you ever read a couple of lines and you're like, I wonder if I wrote this, or you outgrew that thought process? Have that happened to you?
All the time. And sometimes for the better, right? I'll read this and I'm like, who wrote this? Like, and I'll be surprised. But that's why I have to remember, because like when you are going through something, right? You don't recall it as well, right? Especially for me, that statement you just made is important because it's especially for growth, right? Especially when I remember, like when I was going through whatever that hardship was, or that painful moment, or that heartbreak, or whatever it is, right? To be able to write that down and then look back and be like, I used to be there. This is how much I've grown. This is how much I've seen. And not only like that, but also when you write the things that you're grateful for, right? It helps you. It just sparks this joy in you that you're like, okay, like I did this and I did that. And look at where I've come. Then and it tells you I'm capable of so much more, right? And that might be the fuel that you need, or like the fanning of the flames that was already going. You might just need a little bit of that to get you going.
Absolutely. So I always ask my guests, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I would say, Nkem, I would say drown out the noise. I would tell you that you can do, I would tell you that don't be too quick. I would tell her, don't be too quick to shut down those dreams, because even though you can't see it, those dreams are going to materialize and you are going to realize a lot of those dreams. And so I would tell her to keep going. I would whisper when you can't see, or when you don't know, or when someone is telling you that you're not capable. I would whisper and say, ignore them, keep going. you are capable of so much more. You have all that it takes to be and do anything that you want. And I would tell her that even though you can't see it right now, you are going to impact the world and you just have to keep going. That's what I would tell her.
That's beautiful affirmation. And so one word that describes how you want to be remembered.
Ooh. Ooh.
I know you have a lot going on, but just one word, if I were to if you were to summarize this whole conversation into just
one word to wait. Ask me again.
one word that describes how you want to be remembered.
One word that describes how I want to be remembered. I would say that I want to be remembered as someone who lived life to the fullest. That's it.
All right.
Yeah, that's it.
So I'm definitely gonna invest in your project of writing a book because I know you could do it. So yeah, it was a pleasure having you. I know you could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend that 1 hour with us and share your story. We truly appreciate the time that you gave us today.
You're very welcome.
And your story actually reminds us that we are not bound to titles, that we start with. You can be a doctor, an investor, a healer, a builder of wealth, professional, visionary. Your journey is proof that clarity, courage, and commitment, we can rewrite the script of our lives every day. So just one last word for our listeners, and I'll let you get back to your normal life.
I would say if you're listening to this, if you are at a point where you are not sure, right? If you're like, I don't know what to do next, I would say, this is what I would say. I would say, start by investing in yourself. And I would say that it looks small. It doesn't have to look mighty. It could be picking up your first book, or it could be listening to that podcast, or it could be picking up a call and asking two friends to let's join arms and let's do something together, or let's meet once a week or once every 2 weeks and just like think through life. But I would say that if you are at the point where you're unsure, I would really start with thinking about how can you grow, how can you develop yourself personally, and then from there think about outward. But the more that you work on yourself, the more that you grow, you'll be able to accomplish a lot of the dreams and the desires and the goals that you have. But I would say it starts with that.
All right. Thank you again, Nkem. Check her out through Phoenix Capital Investment, My Expansive Life, and I will be following her obviously on LinkedIn and everywhere else just to make sure I know every single one of her moves. But because she's truly brilliant and I like her whole spirit. So until next time.